Welcome into a little emergency edition of that SEC podcast. Trying to get my day going here, prep for tonight's show. And we got a bombshell dropped on the plains. A lot of news. Let's just get right into it. Bryan Harsin officially fired by Auburn here following the loss to Arkansas over the weekend. Of course, it wasn't the Arkansas loss that got Harsin fired. He's been a lame duck there on the plains for basically all season after losing to that Penn State game. But it's just been a train wreck for his program this season on the field. We're sitting here at 3-5, really should be 2-6 on the season. 9 of the last 10 Power 5 games he's lost. Again, should be 10 out of 10. Missouri found 4 different ways to choke away that game on the plains. Bryan Harsin finishes his Auburn career 9-12 overall, and I know it's going to be easy to sit here and poke and say, God, he's awful, move on. And this is a good day for Auburn. Make no mistake. We got a little bit more Auburn news to get to here in just a second. But remember, it was literally this time last season, going into November, Auburn controlled their destiny in the SEC West. Could have reached Atlanta, as hard as that is to believe. Of course, they finished the season losing 5 consecutive games if you count the bowl game, and it all started with that Mississippi State. They were up, 28-3, I believe. Mississippi State came back, won that game, and that's who they ironically play this week. Mississippi State, a 12-point favorite, something we joked about on Monday's show. Got to be the only time Mississippi State has been favored by that many this century for Mississippi State over the Auburn Tigers. So just a tough way for Bryan Harsin. It was never going to work out for Bryan Harsin after Allen Green kind of pulled a rabbit out of his hat. You got to remember going back to that search, it was wild. There was guys passing on the job, Brent Venables, Billy Napier, on and on and on. This was a wild search. They announced it, a couple days before Christmas. He had his intro there on Christmas Eve, literally his Christmas Eve introductory press conference. The media basically had it out for Bryan Harsin since that time, and the boosters never let up. So Auburn, you're moving on from Bryan Harsin. No word yet on who the interim coach is going to be. I thought maybe they'd wait till after the Iron Bowl. That's when the buyout comes down. I didn't know that they had a great internal candidate to be the next head coach. I'd go with Cadillac Williams personally, someone that, loves this university. See how far he can take it, and who knows, maybe he's still on the staff when the next coach gets hired. Of course, that's all speculation. But why this happened today, I was just asked, is why not do it prior to the bye, prior to losing to Arkansas? This all had to do with Auburn finding a new athletic director, not finalized yet, but Ross Dellinger of Sports Illustrated is reporting that they have agreed to a deal with John Cohen, the Mississippi State AD, 5-year deal, $1.5 annually for John Cohen to be your next Auburn athletic director. And this is one of the more respected guys around the SEC and who he's really got the backing of, and I think this matters more than literally anybody in college sports, Greg Sankey. They have a long-standing relationship. John Cohen, long ago, was the AD at Northwestern State. If you're unfamiliar with them, that's in the Southland Conference. This was in the late 90s, early 2000s. And who was the commissioner of the Southland at that time? None other than Greg Sankey. So Sankey is smart enough to know that this Auburn sideshow cannot continue. We need some stability there on the plains. John Cohen is not a guy that's going to take shit from any of these boosters. They are, I'm sure, going to be still involved in some aspect, but he is not going to cater to that crowd. And one other thing, everybody, myself included, has connected Hugh Freeze to this job. With John Cohen getting this job, I don't see any way in hell Hugh Freeze is going to be the next Auburn coach. I'm sure this clip, if I'm wrong, this will be mocked for years to come. But John Cohen, he's been at Mississippi State for over a decade now. Bad blood. That doesn't even put it into words if you don't know the history between Hugh Freeze when he was at Ole Miss and Mississippi State. I mean, it's about as ugly as we've seen in the SEC in about 2 decades. So I just don't think Hugh Freeze going anywhere near this Auburn job now that John Cohen is your AD. Ross Dellinger is also reporting that NIL was big in Cohen making this decision to jump to the Plains. Mississippi State and Ole Miss kind of behind on the times. Mississippi State more than Ole Miss. I've seen their media basically beg people to donate to the NIL. That's not an issue at Auburn. They've got over $13 million committed to NIL on the Plains. And hey, love it or hate it, NIL is here to stay. It's going to be a factor in college football for years to come. This is John Cohen, a Mississippi State man. He went to Mississippi State. He was a coach there at Mississippi State. Obviously, the AD. He hired Mike Leach. He hired Joe Moorhead, which that one didn't work out so well. He hired the last two baseball coaches. The current baseball coach, first coach at Mississippi State to win a national championship in that school's history. Now the other guy, scandal. So, again, kind of up and down performances for John Cohen here when we're talking about making hires. He did not hire the basketball coach that they just fired. That's a common misconception there. I believe that was a Scott Strickland hire. But nonetheless, John Cohen moving on to Auburn. He'll be the one making the decision on the next football coach. He played a part. He didn't hire Dan Mullen, but he was in the room when that happened, is my understanding. So he knows the SEC. He knows these coaching searches. Nobody bats 1,000 in these coaching searches. But if I'm Auburn, this is a great day. We've got a respected man leading our program, one that's not going to cower to these boosters. We've rid ourselves of the Bryan Harsin era. It got ugly at times, but we can turn the page to that. Now we got a month left of the season. See how we play out, but this is more about recruiting. This is more about the future. Today was a great day for Auburn. The pieces are in place. I'm not saying you're going to have a Tennessee-type turnaround, but this is a school where that can happen. Look for Auburn to be much better on the field, I would think, immediately with transfer portal and everything you got involved. There's still talent on the roster, just not enough of it. The portal can help that. Recruiting can't get any worse than it was under Bryan Harsin. So we got to get that corrected in a hurry. Get someone in there that knows what the hell they're doing. Bring an exciting brand of football back to Auburn. Bring some defense, for the love of God, back to the Plains. And the next coach, those are going to be the big priorities there. But just wanted to give you guys a little emergency update here. Bryan Harsin, gone, fired. And ironically, John Cohen coming aboard. Who's the opponent this week? Mississippi State. So that's going to be a talking point all week. We're going to hopefully we don't get another 28-3 blown lead for the Auburn Tigers going up against this Mike Leach offense. But just wanted to give you guys a quick little emergency update. Bryan Harsin out. John Cohen in at Auburn. Good day for the Tigers.